Hi everybody, my name's Amelia and welcome back to the channel. Okay, so today I have another tarot video for you, and as promised, it is a deep dive into the Spacious Tarot. So I really wanted to do the deep dive with the Spacious Tarot because, for one, it's an indie deck that I've had on my list for quite some time and I finally got it, but also because the depictions, the way that this tarot is depicted, was just really fascinating to me, and so I wanted to kind of show, I guess just really go into why I like these depictions, why I purchased this deck, and just cover what's fascinating about the first-person POV style in the Spacious Tarot. Now, I am comparing it to my classic RWS tarot deck. This one was from Magic Seer. I have no idea if it's still for sale. It's kind of old. I've had this for 5 years now, which is incredible to say. Oh wait, maybe it's been 6 years. I can't remember if I got this in 2019 or 2020, but I've had this deck for quite some time since I was in college, and so I don't know if it's still for sale, but it is the classic RWS Tarot, and you can get the classic edition of Tarot kind of like from a lot of different places, so honestly, I don't want to say there's nothing special about it, because this is probably one of my favorite decks, but I just want to point out that you don't have to go anywhere specific to find this type of deck. However, Spacious Tarot, I will leave a link down below. No clue if it's still being sold, because last I heard they were kind of selling out the last few decks, and I was one of the last few people to purchase one, as far as I'm aware, because I saw the creator's post about the deck going out of print, and so I finally purchased it because I was like, it's now or never, right? It's now or never. So anyway, I want to go ahead and get started with this deep dive. It's not going to be anything crazy. I just want to talk about this deck and let it have the limelight. So if you've seen my unboxing video, then you will have kind of seen what the deck comes with, like the guidebook, all that. I don't really want to spend too much time talking about the particular packaging or cardstock necessarily. I just want to talk about the artwork. And it was at this moment that I realized my deck is out of order. So give me a moment. Okay, can't believe that I literally did not put my classic deck in order. I don't know what the heck I was thinking, but I didn't do it. So anyway, you might see off on the side, I can't tell if you can see this far over, I have my suits kind of all, they're in order, but they're all piled, and that's just because I have no idea how the order goes on here. I personally like to have mine go for my minors. Maybe I'm just rambling. I don't know if you guys even were able to keep up with what the heck I was talking about there, but I always go cups, wands, swords, pentacles. I don't know why. That's just the order I like. Anyway, that's why it looks a little bit shorter, because I have just the majors right here, and I tried to keep it separated because I don't really know what's going to be after the majors on this one. So anyway, let's go ahead and look at these depictions. Now, I feel like I'm going to spend a lot more time on the majors than I will on the minors, and I probably won't spend much time on the courts, but I did want to just kind of look at the artwork and compare it. So here we have the Fool, and you can see the similarity immediately with the cliff. There's the Fool here, about to jump off the cliff, but here, you are the Fool. It's supposed to be in your perspective, that you are this person. So you don't get the same imagery with, carrying the white flower, though there are white flowers depicted right here, but you don't really get the same, you don't have your companion, you don't have your little knapsack and stuff. Obviously, there's some things missing, because it's supposed to represent you. And what I actually really like about this is that I think this honestly kind of feels more like it harnesses the Fool's energy, especially because it's in, your first person perspective. And it's that you're the one that has to make the leap. You're the one that has to decide to continue and make that choice to go off of the cliff to see what's out there. And here, while the meaning obviously is the same, I think it's almost more impactful when it's you. Especially if I'm giving a reading to you and this is the card you get, I feel like this is just really, this sends the message home, this is the cliff. You are at the precipice. You have to decide what you're going to do next. Are you going to take that leap? Are you going to take that first step off? And I actually really, really appreciate that depiction, because it is kind of daunting, especially, looking at it like this, that would feel extremely daunting. And so I actually kind of prefer this depiction of it, even though I understand, why there's so much, why there's a lot in this one, and the esotericism and stuff behind it. But I thought that was really interesting. So next we had the Magician. Now, I I don't really know how I feel about these two in the sense that, like, the Magician's not really a card that I resonate with 100%. I mean, it makes sense. I understand it. You can see there's the infinity symbol here. There's the sword, the wand, the cup, the pentacle. You know, like, you have everything you need. You have all the tools at your disposal. You are the Magician. And I do love that this is, like, in the air as if you are the one magically manipulating them. But I also kind of prefer this version with the Magician with his hand raised, you know, as above, so below. And then just like as if you come across him in the woods, like almost like you find him instead of it being you. I don't know why, but like some cards I think are going to feel better in first person, and other cards are going to feel better as if you stumbled across this character. Again, not really sure what I think of this one, but I don't know. This one's just meh. Like, it's a meh card to me. Not terrible, but meh. Something else I want to point out once I go through the majors, and we look at some of the minors, because I won't linger on every card, but I will say there are a lot of cards that I don't like, and that's another reason I wanted to make this video, is because I want to portion out cards based on how I like them versus how I don't. The High Priestess is another one where I'm kind of like, I don't know. It's interesting to see this universe inside the conch shell, which is very intriguing to me, but like it almost pulls me out of it being first person. I know that sounds weird, but like I liked the realism. I liked that this was the material world, but you know, there may be some magic. Obviously, we had these like flying objects, but like it almost feels like it's pulling me somewhere else, and maybe that's the point of the High Priestess, but I personally am not a huge fan of this depiction. I also know this is like an effort to show the moon and to show the waters, again, to show like the ocean behind the High Priestess, to show like the moon symbolism that she carries, and that's cool and all, but I almost wish it was different. Now, I don't know how I would make it different personally, if I kept the conch shell idea. I just don't know if I like looking in the conch shell and seeing that. No, though on the other hand, it could be that there's a pool of water inside the conch shell and it's reflecting the sky above, which actually, now that I'm thinking of it, that's probably what it is. And that's actually pretty nice. In that way, I think if I look at it in that way, that there's water pooled inside the shell and it's reflecting what's above you, then I think I would prefer it, and maybe I'll have to view it that way. But otherwise, if it's like a whole universe inside the conch shell, I'm not so sure I'm on board. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with it, I just feel like it pulls me out of the tarot, in a sense. But now that I'm thinking of it in a different way, I actually like that better, and this, I don't know if it feels so much High Priestess to me, because it does repeat that as above, so below, and it's very ethereal and spiritual, but I don't know if which version I prefer, to be honest. Now, the Empress and Emperor cards, I've said it before when I showed this deck, this deck is what changed my perception of the Emperor and the Empress. Like, I forget these guys. I love them, but forget them for a second, okay? Look at this. Just, this is it. This is what Emperor and Empress energy are to me. The Emperor is all about, you know, these defined, organized, man-made creations, like man-made roads, and the Empress is like wild Mother Nature. And I love that depiction, because I think of the Empress as like untapped, well, not even untapped, just like unfettered creativity. I think of the Empress as like just a jungle, right? And it's like uncurated, it's lush, it's just wild. And the Emperor is a curated, man-made thing. It's structured, it's defined, it's very masculine to me. And I think these are really good representations of divine masculine and divine feminine, because both can be very helpful and both can be very empowering, and I actually prefer this over these two, like, by far. I mean, these two cards are one of the reasons I love this deck and why I purchased this deck to begin with. I mean, not the only reason. I love the art in general and I love a lot of the cards, but this revolutionized the way that I see the tarot. Alright, so next we have the Hierophant, and I'm gonna be honest, I like both depictions of the Hierophant here. I really do like this version of the Hierophant because it's like a spiritual leader or teacher teaching others. It gives me Jesus vibes. I don't know. And I really like it, but it also, I recently purchased well, I didn't purchase it. It was gifted to me. I was recently gifted the Tarot of the Divine Masculine. And in that deck, there is a Hierophant card that looks a lot like this, but it's like very stylized, like Greek kind of imagery. I don't know how to explain that, but it gives me Greek vibes. So it looks like a Greek philosopher teaching his like students, and I actually really prefer that version. Like, I prefer the mentor or teacher guiding the next generation or the students or the disciples, apprentices, whatever you want to call it. So I actually really, really, really like this sort of depiction of the Hierophant. I just do. However, I also really like this depiction. I just think it's gorgeous to see. Is it Stonehenge? I think. I feel silly even asking, but to see Stonehenge with the sun coming up, like rising, and there's something about organized religion here, something about spirituality, a connection to the divine. The moon is up there, and it's like partly like, it's like a partial moon, right? So it's like a crescent moon. And so I think there is this, like, the whole alignment with the stars and stuff that's happening that I think is really, really, really gorgeous. But I think I still prefer this version based on this particular card. I don't know why, I just do. Now, this is interesting. I actually, upon first glance, don't like this Lovers card. And I prefer this version of the Lovers. Granted, this version is very biblical, Christian, you know, or Judeo-Christian, I suppose. But this version is just kind of, I don't know, I don't love it either, but I would prefer it over this one. This one looks like a strain of DNA, and that's interesting. I mean, it's two different colors intertwining, interweaving, and it's like kind of like about a coming together and stuff, but also like we're all connected in DNA, maybe. I don't really know. I guess I could look in the guidebook to see what it says. This is the first time I'm going to pull out the guidebook. Just as these beams of light intertwine, how might you open to the love and light that embraces you? Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I really genuinely don't know how I feel about that. This card goes in the kind of category for me as well. I think I would prefer this one. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys like this? I mean, I've seen other people review this deck, and they've talked about how they really, really love the DNA, like, intertwining of the Lovers card, like, depiction. I'm just not a fan. I'm just genuine. I don't know. Am I weird? I don't know. Now, the Chariot, I adore. I adore this, as if you're rushing downstream. Like, you're in a boat, and it's just rushing. You have no choice. You have to go forward. You can't look back. You are barreling on course. It feels like unbridled ambition. It feels like going into action. It's a lot of movement, and it's not in the silly, just put a car on the card, or a motorcycle, or whatever, or just a classic chariot and call it a day. I understand why this one has a chariot. I mean, like, again, this deck, the RWS is what influenced all the other decks, so I'm not mad at it for putting a chariot on there. But, like, other decks that I see, especially modern ones that just put a car, like slap a car on it and call it a day, I feel like, yes, the car symbolism does represent the chariot. At least for me, it does, and I think it melds really well. However, I'm tired. It feels overused, and I just want something fresh, and this feels fresh to me. This feels unique, and again, I like to think that I'm the one in the raft, in the boat, whatever, barreling downstream, and I'm just, like, at the bow of the ship, and I'm just, like, going forward, and I have to keep going, and it feels like a lot of, I don't know, movement, that good, like, go, go, go energy, so I do really appreciate this one. Alright, Strength is interesting. I have never resonated with this card for Strength. I've always, like, kind of just, I don't know, Strength's a weird card for me because it's one of the ones I just don't totally connect with. And I know I'll keep saying that throughout this video, that there are certain cards I resonate with and ones that I don't. And Strength is one of those cards that's kind of like, I just never really got the grasp of it. And I know what it means, it just doesn't mean a lot to me. But I actually prefer this depiction because, you know, cacti are prickly, they're kind of strong, they're defensive, but then there's also these very delicate moments with the flowers on them. And despite all odds, they grow and thrive in the desert, which is a really harsh climate, and I think I gather more meaning from Strength because of this card than I do with this one with the lion. I don't know. Lions are kind of cute and sleepy in my opinion, so maybe I just don't see Strength in them as much, even though I know that that's, as a culture, that's what we, you know, associate lions to be, but maybe I just like it. I like this one more. The Hermit. I love the Hermit. I love both depictions of the Hermit. I wouldn't change a thing about either of them. I love the older man going through the wilderness, his little light, his guiding light, and he's the one holding the light. It's not that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, it's that he is the light going through this darkness, and he has to make that journey on his own, you know, to discover himself. And I love this depiction of, like, as if you're sitting quietly in a dark forest with the light in front of you. You can meditate on that light. That's, like, it's not guiding you anywhere. You get to decide where you want to go. You kind of guide yourself. But I actually really love both. I love that this is a first-person perspective of the Hermit. Because, again, I identify really heavily with the Hermit. And so I genuinely love both depictions. I usually love the Hermit card. I feel like it's hard to mess up. I mean, maybe it is. I don't know. I don't know if I have any decks, actually. Now I'm kind of curious if I have any that I'm like, I don't know if I like that Hermit. But I like both depictions here. I really love this. I'm excited to see this pop up in my readings. The Wheel of Fortune is interesting. I understand the concept here, but I feel like it's kind of cheesy. I don't want to call it cheesy because the Spacious Tarot probably predated other decks doing the same thing, to be honest, but it feels cheesy to me with, like, the fall, then winter, spring, summer, you know, like, I get it. I understand. I actually prefer this version. I don't mind either one, though. I think I prefer this version because it shows, like, the zodiacal associations. There's also a lot of cards that show aging, which is kind of cliche as well, but I think I prefer that than I do this one, but all of them are about cycles and repetition, and, you know, you're gonna have the dark night of the soul, and you'll go into a fruitful period of your life, and so I'm fine with that. It just feels a little overused, but, I mean, I can't fault anybody for that. I feel like a lot of decks follow that, and I feel like, who am I? Like, what would I do for the Wheel of Fortune? Probably nothing unique, honestly. Alright, this depiction of Justice is very, very interesting. Justice is another card I don't really resonate with or have a lot of experience with, so take that with a grain of salt. I don't know which I prefer, to be honest. I love the scales in this one. I love that there's a sword in this one because it's, like, clear-minded. It's a reference almost to the Ace of Swords, or the Queen of Swords, and it's, like, decisive. It's, like, the firm hand of justice, the firm arm of the law. I don't know. I think this one's fine. I gather a decent amount of meaning from it. This one's very interesting because it has the yin and yang symbol. It's, like, about balance. It almost feels more zen and calm and less harsh than this card. This card feels harsh, possibly because of that reference to the Queen and the Ace of Swords, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. Like, I like that it's softer in a way, and I like that I don't know, I like that feeling of balance because we have that over here, and it's, like, a different type of balance, but I'm not really sure how I feel about it. I'm just gonna leave it in that maybe. Also, I'm sorry I'm, like, rushing through all of this. I genuinely don't want this video to be super, super long. Alright, so now we have the Hanged One and the Hanged Man. I am going to be honest. I have seen the Hanged One depicted like this in another deck. I believe my Ancestral Path Tarot, though I don't know, I mean, I know it was called the Hanged One in that one, but I don't remember if it had this kind of same depiction. I'm, like, tempted to pull it out, but I also am like, meh. But I don't really like this. I think it's because it draws a different meaning for me than the Hangman. The Hangman is about sacrificing something. Like, what are you willing to let go of so you can get the next thing? Like, if you have a dream, you know, sometimes I see this in, like, career readings or in, like, passionate readings, like, if you're working on a passion project, and it's like, what are you willing to let go of to achieve something else? In a spiritual sense, what earthly things are you willing to let go of to achieve enlightenment, right? And I actually prefer this because it's like, what are you willing to sacrifice? And the ultimate sacrifice is the self, is part of the ego, especially when it comes to doing shadow work. You should be sacrificing parts of your ego that hold you back, like limiting beliefs and such. This doesn't really feel the same to me. Like, maybe it's like let go of earthly things, but you're just on the moon, and I don't really know. The moon is pretty empty. I don't know. I don't really like this depiction, and I don't really like the Hanged One. I mean, it's not terrible, and I understand that it's like, you know, it's non-gendered now, which is fine, but I don't know, something about the Hanged One has a different meaning to me than the Hanged Man, and I don't know if I like the space motif. I don't know what's going on here. Excuse me, I don't know what's going on here. I don't really know if I'm a fan of that. Again, you guys feel free to leave comments down below and let me know what you think about these cards, and like correct me if you think I'm just like being silly and not understanding the message. Death is another card that I'm not really a fan of. I feel like based on other cards that this deck has, it could have done Death better. I understand that it's like a skeleton, okay, cool. It's the same flower, okay, cool. But I feel like you could have done, by you, I mean, I guess the creator could have done something just more interesting. Like, compared to the Fool, or compared to the Chariot, or the Hermit, like, those are all scenes, and this does not feel like a scene to me. I almost wish that it was more RWS-like. Like, maybe you're one of these people down here witnessing it or something. Maybe that was too graphic. I don't know. I know there's not really, like, people in this deck. They could have, I don't know, maybe shown, like, a fallen tree? Make it less personified. But I don't know. This feels like lackluster. I'm preferring this version, and I don't really like this one. It doesn't hit hard at all. So maybe that, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of it. I thought that before I got the deck, but it is what it is. Temperance I'm okay with. Temperance I like. I like the balance of the fire versus the ice melting. That's really nice. I kind of like that more than the original Temperance card, because this represents balance and, I guess temperance just better than this does. So I'm okay with this one. It's not like exceptional to me. It doesn't feel like super impactful to me, but I do favor it. I do like it. The Devil's very interesting. The Devil depicted here, like, as the woods with, like, the light, like the sun rising. I don't know what I gleaned from it necessarily, because the Devil, to me, represents all of our shadow aspects, all of our toxic behaviors, and parts of ourselves that we really shouldn't be giving as much power over us. And I don't know how that relates to this, but I'm intrigued and I like it. Like, I'm fascinated by this depiction, and I actually want to spend more time working in this. And, like, maybe you're in, like, these really terrifying woods and you know you have to leave it. Like, maybe that's kind of how it relates. Whatever it is, I do actually really like this depiction of the Devil, more so than this one. Again, this one's very reminiscent of, like, Christian mythology. I don't want to say mythology, but you get the idea. Like, Christian stories and themes. And I actually prefer this version of the Devil, just because it changes the way you think about it. And I genuinely do like that. The Tower feels very RWS. I mean, it's basically the same, except this is a rock tower, but lightning is still hitting it either way. It's kind of the same thing. There's, like, a tower that's been built and lightning hits it, and I don't really see, I mean, there's differences, obviously, in the cards, but to me, they're kind of the same. This feels very RWS-like, so I have no qualms with it. I don't think it does anything revolutionary. I don't have any qualms with it either. It's kind of in the middle for me. Now, the star, I really, really adore, because, I mean, yes, this star is an interesting depiction. It obviously had the star front and center. You have this person being the water bearer, referencing to temperance a little bit. But I actually like this one a lot, because it feels like you're out in these woods and you look up and you see a star, and maybe you attribute that to divinity. Maybe you attribute that to God watching over you or something, or the spirits watching over you. And, you know, it feels comforting. It gives you hope. And as someone who often looked up to the sky when I was in times of distress, looking for a sign, that's like a sign to me, and so I actually really like this depiction of the star a lot. The moon, I think it's a cute card. I love the mushrooms, but again, it's just a moon. I don't really feel anything crazy towards it. It's kind of just, yep, that's the moon. I don't know, it's very cute. I'll say it's a very cute card. It's very pretty, but it doesn't feel like it's emoting a different, like, understanding of the moon card. The sun, however, I think does kind of show a different aspect of the sun. Like, instead of it just being the sun, you have the front and center focus being the sunflower, which is a flower that turns its face to the sun. And it does make me think about, like, looking towards optimism, growing, allowing the sun to nurture you. And I'm talking in a metaphorical sense here, but, like, I mean, it's also a reference to the sunflowers in the RWS. So I actually like this better than the depiction that the creator had for the moon. I mean, I could guess you could argue that, like, mushrooms are, like, kind of like a hidden, not really talked about, subconscious sort of thing in our world. Also, people use mushrooms for spiritual experiences. So, I mean, that does have some meaning, but I liked that this did not make the sun itself the front and center focus. Now, Judgment is interesting. I have a love-hate relationship with this depiction. Also with this one, to be fair. Judgment is a card that took me a while to understand, and when it hit me, it hit me. When I entered my period of Judgment, when I really came to understand the meaning of this card, it really did transform my understanding of what it meant and what it had meant this whole time, and I had no clue. I had to live it to know it. And I think both depictions are for me. They don't totally hit. This one's interesting because it's kind of like, an esoteric spiritual doorway that you have to cross through. Maybe you have to experience a death, an ego death or something, or maybe you just have to experience literal death. I don't know. But, like, you're leaving this cold, bland world for a more colorful one. Okay, I guess. I don't know. I'm not in love with this, but I don't hate it. I'm very split on it. Very 50-50. Not entirely sure what I think about Judgment. Like, I mean, I like that there's a path ahead. Like, your path's not over. It's just going to change. And I think that relates to me and my experience with Judgment. But, and this is a huge card to try to depict. But I don't know if I love the artwork on it. And I do think I prefer it over this one. But, again, it's kind of, yeah, it's close. I don't really like this world card. I know it goes back to references in the Wheel of Fortune and in the Justice card and the Fool. I do think it, this ties in a lot of references to past cards for this tarot, and obviously this does the same thing. I just don't know if I prefer either one over the other, but I don't really like the art. I wish it was more of a scene, like a realistic scene, and less, I don't know, spacey. I know that the creators were trying to go for a more spiritual, spacey, otherworldly aesthetic, but it feels sort of, I don't know, like, not like an afterthought. This card in particular doesn't feel like an afterthought. It just doesn't feel very grounded, and I don't feel like I'm traveling in the Fool's journey anymore. Like, I don't feel like I'm walking, in the woods anymore. And maybe I'm not. Maybe I've come out of the woods. Maybe the whole point is that you're going through the doorway and you ended up in outer space. I don't know. But, like, I wish it was more grounded. I really do. I think this deck, what it has done so beautifully is taking you on a journey through the real world, or, like, the material world, and showing you things as you go through. And I just feel like this kind of misses that a little bit. I don't know. Like, again, I see it. Like, you walk through the doorway and you've gone into, the afterlife or something, and the cycle continues, whatever it is. You have to start a new one. Okay. But I wish it would have stayed more in the real world, I guess. Or in the material world. I know I keep saying real world, but, like, the material world. I wish it would have stayed in some place in the forest or a landscape. I feel like I would have resonated with it more. Okay, and that brings us to the minors. I will admit that in the Spacious Tarot, I dislike some of the minor cards, and mostly some of the minor suits. What I really want to do in this deck eventually, maybe towards the end of this video, is make two piles of cards I really like and ones that I don't. I can put, like, a meh pile as well, probably. But this is one reason I hesitated to buy the deck, is because there's a lot of cards in certain suits that I don't like, and that I felt like the creator maybe hasn't had enough experience in those suits. To be fair, if you put me in the suit of swords, I don't have as much, like, connection to the swords themes as I do to, say, wands or cups or pentacles. Pentacles, by far, I have an extremely close relationship to. And so I think I would do well if I were making my own deck there. I would struggle with the swords. So I'm not going to fault the creator for this, because I do think that they're struggling with some of the suits. The Pentacles is one of them that I remember. So I like the Ace of Pentacles being a seed. It makes sense. It does make sense. And it's fitting for the card, but I also think it kind of misses other things about it. In a way, I like this one because it is the helicopter seed, so it's kind of like falling from the sky. It's like by chance. It's like something that's given to you in a sense. And one of the things about the Ace of Pentacles is there's this idea of an opportunity being given to you. Like, you have a chance to try again. Somebody, the divinity, whatever you want to call it, is giving you something to start over. You are given a chance. You are given luck in some way. You are given the seed to be planted. Like, and it's not that, like, it's weird to, I don't know, I just like to say, I like the word given. I like that it's, like, given to you. It's an opportunity. It's something that you can start again. And I do like the seed motif. I do think it's fitting. I just wish there was more to it, I guess. I don't know if that makes any sense. In the Two of Pentacles, again, you see that figure 8. Okay, cool. The infinity sign, it's there. You see the pentacles. Okay, cool. That's it. Like, that's it. You get the birds, I guess, which is cute. But I'm uncertain of how this represents, like, juggling responsibilities and, you know, feeling like life is very tumultuous. You get this wave in the background on this card where it's like these ships are, like, trying to fight the current because they're, you know, the ocean is very, like, rough right now and there's a lot of waves happening and it feels like you're juggling, like you're generally struggling to hold everything because you're not meant to hold everything. I don't feel that with this card. I don't know if the author has ever, I mean, not to say the author hasn't, but I guess, I don't know if what the creator was trying to do to represent that juggling and feeling like things are a little out of control. I don't know. Like, feeling like you don't have it all together. I don't see it in this card like I do this one. So, I don't know. The Three of Pentacles, I actually like this depiction of the Three of Pentacles because, like, trees often work together, their roots connect, and the trees will give resources to one another in order to help each other thrive. And the Three of Pentacles is all about coming together, working together as a community to thrive. And so I do enjoy, like, you know, these people working together to build this cathedral, but I also really like this version of the trees and their roots intermingling, having a whole little society and little system where they help each other grow. And I appreciate both cards. I like this one a lot. I think it's very cute, and I do think it holds the meaning of the Three of Pentacles really, really well. The Four of Pentacles is a little strange. It's a little strange with it being being pine cones. I guess the argument is that if these pine cones were to fall off, they could plant themselves and become a tree, but by being attached to the tree still, they cannot turn into trees. I don't know how that really completely correlates with greed, but when I look at this card and see this guy, like, really holding tightly to his earthly material things, it makes me think of Scrooge. And I like that there's, like, a whole city behind him, and, like, he almost forgets about life because he's so focused on hoarding. I don't really see hoarding in this one. I don't know. Maybe it's hard to depict hoarding in nature. I don't know. You could probably show a squirrel hoarding something, like stockpiling. I mean, that might be a cliche depiction, but I don't know. This one doesn't totally resonate, I don't think, for me. The Five of Pentacles is another one that I'm not so sure resonates. I can see that this wolf has been wounded, and he's likely limping. Maybe his pack left him behind. And then we have the pentacles up there. But I don't really feel the loss and the begging and the poverty of it like I do here, where these people are clearly outside of a church asking for help or wanting to ask for help because they need it, and they're at a complete loss, and there's no one to ask for help here. And I feel like there needs to be something that represents the wolf asking for help, and I don't think he is. It's like he's left behind. And I mean, yeah, that makes sense, but it doesn't feel like poverty to me as much as it feels like loneliness. And I suppose poverty can be lonely. It doesn't always have to be. But I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that one. I am not a fan of the Six of Pentacles on this card. I don't really get it. I don't really understand, and I'm not a huge fan of it. It feels plain to me. It feels a little, I don't know, quick, I guess. Not like it's ill thought out, because there's obviously two nests and they must mean something. I feel like that scene from Finding Nemo where it's like, they're trying to speak to me, I know it. Like, I feel like that. This one I think I like more just because it does show like someone giving charity. Either you're that person giving charity to others or you're the one that's receiving the charity. And there's also this like whole balance thing. Whether or not it's fair, I don't know if I would say that this is fair. I don't think we live in a fair world, to be honest. But I know it's a reference to justice. So I prefer this depiction. This just feels like, not like an afterthought, because it's not. I just don't really know what it's trying to tell me. Seven of Pentacles also is one where I'm like not really sure what the author was aiming for with this. I think it's, again, like, I mean, it's obviously a reference into, like, you reap what you sow. You know, you try to invest and you try to put in the effort so later you can receive the rewards. And I feel that from this guy who, like, looks like he's putting in the effort, like he's, you know, preparing his crops and stuff. I don't know about the pumpkin, though. I don't know. This feels like I'm already reaping what I've done. It doesn't feel like I'm putting in the effort initially. Does that make sense? So, like, it doesn't feel like I'm investing anything into my life if I already have the reward right here, which is the pumpkin. So I don't know. Maybe I'm missing it. Maybe I'm just completely missing what this author knows about the Suit of Pentacles. Maybe I'm totally, like, out of it. I don't know. The Eight of Pentacles being the bee makes sense, but I feel like it's cliche. I also wish it would have shown, like, an actual hive. Like, maybe depict, like, an actual, like, honeycomb with other bees, and it didn't. This card feels so last minute. Like, they were scrambling to make a depiction. They drew a bee, and they were like, okay, we ran out of time. Just make hexagons and call it a day. I don't like this card, and it's one that I really don't like in this deck. It's probably my least favorite in this deck, because I love the Eight of Pentacles. I mean, this guy, you can see that he's made all these pentacles. He's working. Maybe he threw that one down because it wasn't perfect, and he's, like, you know, chiseling away. Literally chiseling away and creating something, and it feels time-consuming, it feels tedious, it feels like hard work that just, you don't know if it's going to pay off or not, and I want that. I want the bees to be more. Like, I know with the bee there that it does represent what the bees do. They're hardworking, busy bee, I get it, but I wish they would have given more time to draw a hive, like an actual hive interior or something, or even just like one wall of like a honeycomb with other bees working together to achieve a goal, or even just put this one bee in there with the hive instead of it being these, like, I don't know, non-realistic just hexagons. I don't know, it feels like an afterthought to me, and so I don't really like that card. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer. I feel like it's so easy for me to get caught up in the negative. I love this deck, or I wouldn't have purchased it, to be honest with you. So even though I can get upset, not upset, but like point out what I don't like about other cards, doesn't mean that I hate the deck. I actually really, really enjoy this deck a lot, and I wouldn't have got it otherwise. So we have the Nine of Pentacles here. With this Nine of Pentacles, I'm actually okay with it. It feels like a luxurious, elegant garden that you're walking into. Like, this is a rich person's home, and I think that represents the Nine of Pentacles pretty well. Like, you're going into some gorgeous garden of a manor or something, and, I mean, this lady looks like an elegant, high society lady, so I'm okay with that depiction. I think that makes sense for the card. It feels high class. It feels like you've achieved the riches that you dreamed and set out for yourself to achieve. Ten of Pentacles being a tree, totally fine by me, because it's about legacy, it's about what you leave behind, and trees, you know, it connects right back to that Ace of Pentacles where you drop the seeds, and the seeds make more trees. Like, that's your legacy, is what you leave behind, and for a tree, that would be its seeds. So I'm totally fine with this one, because I think it correlates pretty well to the Ace of Pentacles. And, I mean, this one shows family, they have dogs, there's like an elderly man here who is, you know, maybe looking at the younger generations. I'm totally fine with both depictions. I think this achieves exactly what it needs to achieve. Okay, this video is getting super, super long. I just checked my time. It's been like 40 minutes. So I think I'm going to have to do a two-parter on this, which is totally fine. We're going to go through the courts, and then I might stop here, and then we'll do the other half, which would be the rest of the minors, and then my final, like, thoughts on divvying up the cards. So with the courts, I am going to go kind of quick through it, because courts to me, they're weird. Courts are very weird. They're hard to understand sometimes, and I think you have to kind of look at it like these are both other people and yourself, kind of depending on the situation. With the Page of Pentacles here, you can see they look very similar, just this one's a little bare, I think. So, you know, they're very similar. They both have this new opportunity. What are you going to do with it? Do you know how to use it? You might be young. You may not know what to do with it yet. You may not be ready to plant that seed. Totally fine. I think both look, again, very RWS-like, so I'm totally fine with that. I don't think there's anything crazy about it. The Explorer of Pentacles, being this little bear kind of like walking through a prairie and then having the knight, of course, on the horse. I don't know. I think the movement is fine. I like that it's called Explorer, actually. I think that's a really good way to title that. Excuse me. Which, this one was Child. I forgot to mention that. I actually do like Child, Explorer. What are the other ones? Guardian and Elder. That's wonderful. I actually prefer that over Page, Knight, Queen, and King. With the Guardian of Pentacles, again, you can kind of see the person or the figure sitting with the pentacle. I do think it's interesting how the forest is dark around them, and it seems like it's going to be fall, like maybe there's a bit of preparation happening. Maybe it's the end of a season and you are enjoying a fruitful season with that has paid off. I'm not really sure, but I think it's cute, and I, again, am totally fine with that. It feels like the courts tend to like look a lot like the courts of the RWS. And then with the Elder of Pentacles, you know, like a bear that has it all, I guess, has achieved everything. I actually would prefer a little bit more in this one, maybe like with the Elder being surrounded by simple bear luxuries. I don't know what a bear luxury would be, but showing off more of the riches in the way that this card does. But with bears, I suppose that's kind of hard to show. So I don't hate it. I'm not mad at it. I just think it would be really funny to have like a bunch of little, like, what do bears even collect? I don't know, but things the bear has collected, maybe having its family around, that could be interesting. But I get it. I understand why it is the way it is, and I'm not mad at it. I love that it's called Elder, and I think that you can still achieve the same sort of understanding of the card, despite it being a little bit different from the RWS. Like, no problems there. We're doing part 2 of the Spacious Tarot deep dive. So we are going over the Spacious Tarot, which was in this box here. Now, also, I'm going to point out, if you can hear my cat in the background, it's because she wants to be in this room, but I cannot let her be in this room because, for one, I'm filming, and she'll be all up here, and 2, I have a lot of valuable breakable things in this room, and she will knock them down. Because, you know, cats. They just know what's valuable to you. Anyway, I'm going to pick up right where we left off. We just covered the Major Arcana and the Suit of Pentacles, and now we're going to be covering the Suit of Swords, Cups, and Wands, and then we will discuss just my final thoughts, as well as kind of like what I really want to do, which is divvying up the deck. Because, like I said, this deck, I was on the fence for so long, because I did not love every card. And in fact, I felt like almost 2/5 of the deck were things that I wasn't really in love with, and because of that, it really prevented me from buying it, but I'm so glad I did. I mean, some of these cards just are so impactful that even if I don't like the others, I can't imagine not getting the deck, I guess, which, I mean, obviously I didn't get the deck for, like, the longest time, and then, yeah, eventually, I mean, I finally purchased it. That's the point. Okay. So let's just pick up right where we left off. The Ace of Swords here looks so much like the RWS, so I can't really fault it, but what I do like is this, like, how it's pointing to that light up there, and it's, like, shining down, like, with rays of light, and I feel like I almost prefer this version of the swords, because I like to say the Ace of Swords is like your compass needle. It's kind of like where you're spinning, where you're going. If it's, you know, facing your true north, you have a clear direction, you know where you go, where you know where you want to go, you know what you want. Maybe you're being very decisive in a situation right now, but if it's reversed, maybe you're struggling with that. And granted, this can also be about communication, because that's what the sword suit represents. It can also be about your thoughts, but overall, I like to compare it to a compass needle, because I just feel like that's pretty fitting for most readings. I do prefer this version, though I understand that, obviously, we all love the RWS versions, I believe. Pamela Coleman-Smith did a great job at really depicting the energy of the cards, I think. Still. Here we have the classic swords crossing to kind of give that idea of, like, we're indecisive right now. We don't know which path to take. I wouldn't say this is spectacular in any way. It is what it is. Like, it's just kind of there. I don't really mind. I almost prefer this version because we have a figure here who's blindfolded, but really, I don't have any qualms with it. I don't love it. It's just kind of there. With the Three of Swords, I kind of feel the same way. We have these 3 swords, and there's what looks to be like blood or something. I don't know where that came from, but it's there in the snow, and then there's cracks and fissures here. Again, I think for a deck that does not depict humans and does not depict, like, people, I think this is a great way to represent it. However, again, it just kind of is to me. I almost prefer this version because, you know, feeling like you're stabbed in the heart, like, that is an emotionally evocative card, and I think that feels more impactful. However, I'm not going to say I dislike this. I'm totally fine with that. I just don't feel like it's super like, oh my goodness, in the way that I felt some of the majors were. Like, I know in my last video I said, like, for example, the Fool card, this feels impactful to me. I wouldn't say that the Three of Swords feels impactful, but it doesn't feel bad either. It feels fine. I actually really enjoy this Four of Swords, though, leaning against this, like, abandoned bench. Like, that really feels like you need to slow down. You need to take a rest. You need to, like, sit down. And I imagine that this is in some, like, nature park or something, and you're, like, walking through this like, nature park, and this is, like, a bench that, you know, now that it's snowing, nobody's sitting there. You know, you feel like you have to keep on trekking through the snow, but maybe you really should, like, stop and take a rest, even if the seat is a bit frozen. I don't know, I kind of like this depiction a lot, actually. Maybe even more so than the traditional. With this Five of Swords, I don't know how I feel about it, because it has the vulture here, and obviously this is about, like, winning, despite the cost of winning, like, winning against all odds. It's sort of like, you know, you stuck up for yourself, but what did you lose when you did that? I don't know if I feel that emotion, really, from this card. But again, kind of like like the 2, kind of like the 1, I don't hate it. It is what it is. I don't have any strong opinions on it, but I think it's totally fine. The Six of Swords, though, I'm not quite certain that I like this depiction. I think the Six of Swords is a card that really matters to me because it's these people trying to escape hardship or struggle, and they're bringing the baggage with them. Like, these are the problems that they're trying to escape, they're taking with them in some way. And I really, really view that card in that lens, that you may be transitioning, moving from one space to another, but you're bringing with you the strife, and you're going to have to address those shadows. And that's what this card really means to me. I don't feel any sense of movement here in this card over here on this depiction. And I also, because there's no movement, I don't feel like I'm taking these swords with me. If anything, I'm passing them by, like looking at them like, oh, there's my shadows, let's just ignore them and keep on going. So I don't really know if I like this depiction all that much, because I feel like it lacks movement. Again, I don't hate it. I love the artwork. Like, you have to understand, I love the artwork of this deck. I really, really enjoy this deck. Like, I am going to prop this deck up as much as I can. I know I'm pointing out the things I don't like, but I would prop this deck up as, like, one of the best that I think I've seen. That's why it's getting a dedicated deep dive video when some of my other decks don't. But I am going to point out, like, I feel like there's a lack of movement here. Now, the Seven of Swords, I think, is very creative. I actually like this. Even though the art style is a bit more minimal than some of the other ones we've seen, I actually really like this. This sword is separate from the rest. It feels like, I don't know, it feels like that's the outcast, that's the black sheep, right? Like, that's the weird one, you know? And the Seven of Swords, even though it's about, like, lying and deceit and trickery, I think it's also about other people coming up against you, and you're being challenged, and whether or not you were the criminal or not, people are perhaps perceiving you that way, or maybe you're in this group and you can see something and you're like, hey, this person's not all they're cracked up to be. So I actually kind of like this depiction of it, though I do think this one's more comical and funny, and I actually prefer this one just because of the situation. But this one's very interesting, and it almost shifts the meaning of the card for me, which I think will be really interesting in readings. Now, this one is interesting because I don't know why there's the white sword versus the black one. I don't know if that's like negative space, like they escaped and that's like the remnant of it or something, or if that is like literally just a white sword and this one is separate. I'm not really sure. What, like, is this the bad guy that's holding this one captive? I don't know. But it's interesting. I think I still prefer the classic Eight of Swords where, you know, this person is, you know, bound up and they can't see clearly and they could technically just walk away, but they don't really realize that. They're kind of bound by their circumstances. So I really do like the traditional depiction. I think with this one, it follows the RWS close enough that it's fine, but I don't totally know what it's trying to achieve here. So, like my last video, you guys let me know down below if I'm missing something. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm not looking at this super closely. And while this is a deep dive, I am trying to go quickly. So I will say that I'm not devoting quite enough time to really analyze the cards, but I probably will after the video, like off screen. But for now, that's my first impressions. I don't know what to think, really. I don't hate it, don't love it, just kind of meh. Okay, and then we have the Nine of Swords. I actually really like this Nine of Swords. This definitely evokes the feelings of the Nine of Swords to me in the same way that this one does. Like, this person is really upset and distressed about these swords above the wall, or about their nightmares. They're being plagued by these fears, and I think this little mouse is totally, I mean, that's fear. That's complete fear. There's all these swords aiming at them. They feel like the world's against them. So I actually really like this depiction. I think that is a perfect example of the Nine of Swords, and it is, you know, maintaining that non-human connection that this deck is trying to go for. So I think that was done beautifully. I really like that one. Now, the Ten of Swords killing the tree, I mean, fine. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, it's an ending. The tree's cut down, it will be no more, just like this person is cut down and will be no more. So, again, I think it's fine. Very reminiscent of the classic RWS depiction. I think that's fine. I'm totally okay with that. Now we're getting into the suits. Now, I think I mentioned on the courts. We're getting into the courts. Now, I think I mentioned on my Pentacles portion of this review that the courts here follow the traditional RWS sort of, like, I guess, stances, or, like, the way that it is. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I don't find anything, or I haven't found anything super spectacular about the courts in the Pentacles suit, but I did like the renaming. I do actually like the renaming here. I'm kind of iffy on renaming in decks, but I actually really like the way they renamed the courts in the Spacious Tarot. But I will say I don't know if these examples of the courts really depict the court's energy so much as they sort of depict what was expressed in the traditional RWS, with it being very much like people focused, but in this case animal focused. I don't know, I think the energy of the courts can be different. I don't think we always have to slap on a character with a sword in their hand and say, this is the page, this is the knight, this is the king, this is the queen. I think we could dive deeper and really, you know, express an emotion that goes with that card and really depict its feeling without it being so personified. But it is what it is, and honestly, most decks do that, and, like, again, I've said before, who am I to decide? I don't have a deck out there, so who am I to judge, right? Like, I don't think I have the ability to do that too much. So, anyway, I don't think the courts are anything super, super spectacular. Interesting that they are crows, though. I do like that. Okay, maybe I actually kind of like this one. This one feels kind of spectacular, actually. The crow being really angry and on top of this sword, and it's likely going to fall off the edge, maybe because there's too much, like, rash reactions happening. You're acting before thinking. I actually really like that depiction. That's actually unique. I think that's really clever. The Guardian one, again, I mean, it's a crow sitting on the sword. The sword is, like, by these cut down trees. That can be interesting, I guess. Okay, my camera did the little clicky off thing because I wasn't paying attention to it. It's something it does, so I may have lost a few seconds, so I have no clue exactly what I had said, but I'll repeat it for myself, maybe. I think the Swords courts are better depicted than the Pentacles suit that the authors were creating for the Spacious Tarot. I think the Pentacles felt very, like, just casual court cards, but I actually think the scenes depicted in the Swords courts are much more impactful and much more expressive. So I actually really like the Swords courts. as far as like describing the meaning of those cards. Again, with this sword, like the bird feeling like it's transcended the suit in some way, I actually really appreciate that. So yeah, I think the swords quartz are more impressive than the pentacles ones overall, even though I like zip through them. Okay, so now we have wands. Now, before we deep dive into the wands, I want to say I'll probably go through this really quickly because the wand suit is one of the reasons why I almost didn't, well, it's why I put this deck off for so long. It's why I was conflicted about buying the deck, because the wand suit to me feels empty. It feels like it was last minute. It feels poorly thought out compared to the other cards. Like, I don't really dislike it on its own. I mean, in a way I do, because I don't like minimalist decks. I don't like pip decks, and I feel like this suit is very pippish and minimal, and I don't like those things in my decks. But that's personal preference. Otherwise, I would say it was fine. But compared to the other suits, which feel like they tell a story, which really showcase the meaning of the card in some way, even if I said, you know, like, criticize certain things in these cards, even if I didn't totally understand the depictions in the other suits, this suit is one of the reasons I did not buy the deck. I don't know, it's just me. You guys can have a different opinion, that's totally fine. If you love this suit, you need to, like, let me know and explain to me why. I'm actually okay with the first one, with the ace. It feels like a sparkler on the 4th of July, but it resonates to me as the Ace of Wands, like the spark, the initial spark of inspiration or passion that you have for something. Totally fine. I'm okay with that. I enjoy that. And then I start to dislike it. I don't get the sense of planning, preparation, and looking toward the future with this. I don't feel that. I feel duality, that's fine, but there are so many other cards that focus on duality. All twos kind of focus on duality in some way, and I don't think there's anything more represented in this Two of Wands other than just the concept of duality. I don't feel like we are trying to figure out what to do with our spark. Where here, this guy's looking at this world, you know, he's trying to figure out, he's like, okay, I have this inspiration, what am I going to do with it? And I like that. I don't feel that with this, to be honest. Further, this one is interesting because I do think this one's okay for what it is. It's 3 wands lining a path, like the path forward. You're kind of moving now. There is a sense of movement. Just as here, he's like ready to go forward. Well, kind of. He's like contemplating it. He's like, do I go out on my mission? Do I follow my passion? Do I not? He's kind of like ready to do it. So I'm fine with this one, actually, surprisingly, because I know I was about to bash the whole suit. But I think this one's better than the last one. I don't know what it is, but this just does not resonate with me as the Two of Wands. This is fine. That's fine. And then we get to the Four of Wands, and this just feels like the two, but like copied and pasted, and I'm not a fan. When I see Four of Wands, I want to think of, you know, family and children, the household, things we've accomplished, things we're celebrating with, like, you know, the plants up here. Like, this should feel like abundance, like we've had a celebration. I think of marriage when I see this card. I don't get any of that from this Four of Wands. This feels so pippish to me and feels so forgotten. Like, maybe the author doesn't know what... this is not true. Obviously, I'm just being picky here. But, like, it feels like the author doesn't have enough experience in the wand suit to really depict its meaning. And I don't want to be mean because, like, obviously there are pip decks out there. People do that all the time, and some people like minimalist pip decks. That's fine. It's fine. It's just not my cup of tea. And compared to all the other cards which depict scenes of some sort, I just feel like this is so last minute forgotten. I don't know. I'm tempted to just kind of go in the guidebook here for a second and see what they say about the four. These wands seem to be dancing jubilantly, reminding you that tiny sparks add up to create real momentum. I mean, I guess. I don't know, I would have rather seen some animals maybe, or like a scene, like a landscape that felt more like celebration. I don't really feel the celebration with the wands. I don't know, it's just me. They feel like they're just wandering in empty space. I just feel like there wasn't enough thought. Just compared to, like, other suits, like, hold on a second. Like, look at this Four of Pentacles. I'm not really sure what it's supposed to mean exactly when it comes to greed and, like, hoarding, necessarily, but it's, like, there's a whole tree here, and then little, like, pine cones. Like, that's gotta mean something, right? Or, like, if I go to the swords, this Four of Swords, I was just saying, it really resonates with me, and I really enjoy it, because it looks like people put their swords down to take a break. Like, you're going through a park, and you just need to rest for a moment. This is a scene. This is not a scene. I don't know. That's my personal opinion. Not really a big fan of it. Five of Wands, kind of along the same vein. I feel like the wands are dancing in the sky, I guess, and they're supposed to be personified as, like, fighting against each other, but I would have rather seen a scene with animals or a scene with the wands that wasn't just up in the sky. I understand that putting it up in the sky helps show the sparks better and shows, like, the fizzled out wands or so. Like, you know, I get that, but I just crave more, I think. I crave an actual scene that helps me understand it. This just feels like a pip deck. I don't know what it is about it. It just does to me. Even the 6, not a fan. I mean, I'm glad that the wreath is, you know, represented. I'm glad that it's held up by the wands, so it feels like we've achieved something. But if I didn't know what the 6 of Wands meant, I'm not really sure I would be able to look at this card and be like, oh yeah, it means that for sure. I don't know. The 7 of Wands with this wand soaring above the rest as they are all on fire. Okay, that's fine. It's about, like, standing up against others, standing up for your successes, standing up for yourself. I can see the vision. Again, not 100% sold on the depiction of it, but I can see the vision. I can understand it. Sure. Now, I do think the 8 of Wands is well represented, with them looking like shooting stars in the night sky. I think now this is the right way to do a scene. Look at how there's the trees. Look at how there's the aurora borealis. Like, look at how different these feel. This feels like you're trying to express an image, like an idea with me, like the shooting stars. Things are moving fast. Wishes are coming true. I don't feel the celebration, really. I feel like the background, maybe that's my problem. Maybe the background just needs to be more scenic, I guess. I don't know. And look, compared to this, like, this feels like I'm actually wandering through the world of the Spacious Tarot, and I happen to just stop and look up at the stars and see the shooting stars. Where am I? Where am I wandering? Where am I going with this 9? It feels like a pip deck. It feels pippish, and this is supposed to represent, you know, you're starting to become overwhelmed by your responsibilities, you're starting to carry too much, you're getting hurt, but you keep doing the same thing over and over again. There's a lot of repetition there. I don't feel that with this card. Like, this is a scene. I don't even know what this is. It feels so separate from other things in this deck, and that's why I don't like the wand suit. And then with the 10, again, we're back to this, like, weird background with all these wands. I don't really feel like there's a burden. I know that's what this card means. Like, you're carrying so much. You've put in so much work, and you may collapse. But I don't feel that with this. And again, there's no scene. I think the 8 of Wands was perfect. That's a scene. I wish it would have been continued on in some way with the rest of the wand suit, and I just feel like the wand suit falls flat. Now we're getting back into the courts. So in this one we have salamanders. I think they're kind of cute. Again, I like this reference back to the initial spark of the Ace of Wands. I'm fine with the Ace of Wands being just an initial spark. It's fine. That one's fine. That one can be a little pippish. I don't mind. I just wish the rest of the suit would have done more, I guess. But I'm fine with this. That's cute. This one's interesting. Is that fire behind him? I don't really know. I think this is also kind of like, you know, rushing into something, acting a little too fiery. Again, I can kind of gather my own meaning from this. I'm okay with it. It's neither here nor there. Guardian of Wands, stepping into the fire, maybe, like, enjoying it. I don't know. I actually really like the fireworks. Like, after seeing all the sparklers and getting all these, like, 4th of July sort of feelings, like, even this one that kind of feels like a little bonfire in the summer, I like the fireworks on this. I really do. I also like these little, like, strands. It almost look like DNA strands, maybe even, like, recalling back to the way the Lover's card was depicted. That's an interesting connection to me. I don't know if that was intentional to be a recall back to the Lover's card, but with it being all about passion and stuff, I actually kind of like that. So I'm fine with that. That's interesting. All right, and now we get into the cups. So with the cups, I think this is going to be nice. It's going to be a change of pace. I think the cup suit is really well done for the most part, in this deck. And At least it's more refreshing, no offense to the wand suit. The wand suit just really falls flat for me, but I think this is fine. So we have an overflowing cup with the Ace of Cups, very RWS-like. I don't see any issues with it. I'm fine with that. The Two of Cups with the lily pads and like this little scene. This is interesting. I don't know if I necessarily feel like the cups are coming together, but I also kind of do. I'm kind of like, meh. Like, I don't know if I feel like contracts being made or marriage or people are coming together, but again, it's good enough. It's good enough for what it is, and I'm fine with this. I mean, again, I don't feel pulled out of the world. I feel like I've walked along, I see this pond, there's some cups on the pond, and the two cups are on these close lily pads. They're not, like, separated or anything. So, like, that's fine. Like, I think, again, I want to feel like I'm waltzing through nature, waltzing through this world, and, like, coming across these things. I don't want to feel like it's just some abstract idea. So I'm okay with that. That's no problem. Even these, like, 3 cups on the cliff. Again, like, I like the little waterfall thing happening. I love all the water in this. I mean, it's the Suit of Cups. I don't, like, that's perfect. I don't know if I necessarily feel companionship and friendship, but I also don't not. Double negative there. So I'm, again, fine with it. At least it's a scene. At least it's a scene. Am I horrible for saying that? And then we have the Four of Cups. This one's interesting because what I like about the Four of Cups here is that something was being given to you. Like, the divine was handing you some opportunity, a relationship, a new chance, something. You know, it was giving it to you. You're in, like, meditation, contemplating your next move, and you don't take it. Or you're, you know, maybe in the process of contemplating whether or not you should take that opportunity, whatever it may be. And I actually really like this depiction of it in the RWS. I don't really get the same feeling here. I think the Four of Cups that I see over here seems like 4, like, friends standing against all odds, standing against the rushing water. But I know that that's not really what the Four of Cups is supposed to represent. The rushing water could be, like, challenges and things and opportunities coming your way, and maybe you're supposed to fill your cup because these cups look empty. I'm not really certain. Going back to the guidebook for this one. The 4 cups sit on a boulder outside of the water's current. Have you removed yourself from the sea of opportunities available to you? At times, this card suggests apathy of self-centeredness. Have you applied it? Have you slipped into these energies? Okay, I see it now. Like, you're outside of the water's current. Have you removed yourself from the sea of opportunities? Because again, this is an opportunity coming to you, but you're not really taking it. I see the vision. I see it. I like that. Okay, I do. It took me a minute. So sorry to the creators of the Spacious Tarot. It took me a minute. Like I said, this has probably happened several times. I can imagine you guys are in my comments like, Amelia, this is what this card means. Please help me. Just help me. But, okay, I get that. So, that's fine. Again, I'm just happy it's a scene. And honestly, even though it's not my depiction or what I would do for the Four of Cups, I love that it's expressed in the guidebook and that it's a scene, so I'm, like, wandering through this wilderness and I can see that. Okay, that's fine. I don't mind. This one gets a little weird because suddenly it starts feeling less like a scene and a little bit more abstract. But again, 2 cups, broken cups, it's a reference to this 5 of Cups. I'm fine. Maybe it's like this because they wanted a less involved color palette so it'll feel sadder or like just heavier. Or maybe they do want the abstract feeling of like grief and like getting kind of like lost in your sadness or your despair and not seeing things as sharply. I don't know. I'm fine. It references the RWS. I like actually that the stream of water separates them and you're on this side looking at the broken cups, so you might lament over those and might not recognize those or see those in the distance, and I actually really like that depiction. So as far as like the setup goes, even if I'm not a huge fan of the weird white outlining, I'm fine with that, and I think I can draw a lot of meaning and interpretation from it, and it does not pull me out of the world. If anything, it just makes me think a little bit more about this world. The 6 of Cups is really cute. Like a big cup, like with its plants kind of reaching out to each cup, and then all these little flowers kind of growing, and it's like propagation. I like that. I mean, obviously it's a reference to the flowers that are in the 6 of Cups, traditionally speaking, but again, since we don't have people in this deck, I think this is a great way to reference childhood being taken care of by your parents or guardians. You're the little, like, you are one of these little propagated flowers, or were at one time. Maybe you know, if you're walking along this beach in this world and you see this, you know, you can have some semblance of your own, like, childhood and growing up and connection to family and friendship from the past. I am totally fine with this depiction as well. And I think that's adorable. I actually think that's really cute. I really do like this depiction of the Six of Cups. I think that's really sweet, and I like the idea that it's propagation. I mean, maybe it's not, but that's what I see it as, and I enjoy that. I like that a lot. The Seven of Cups feels very abstract. I don't know what happened exactly. I don't know how he went from a scene to going abstract again, but that's fine. What I love about the traditional RWS depiction of the Seven of Cups is all of the options in each cup. Every cup is filled. This person's like, oh my gosh, which one do I choose? I like that about the Seven of Cups because it feels like you don't know what to pick. You're stuck. You're like, where do I go? Too many opportunities. These ones are all spilling. So is this like, okay, you didn't make a choice, so now you're losing all your opportunities? That's the vibes I get, which would be like the Seven of Cups reversed. But it's kind of weird that it's like that. Like, okay, so all my options are just falling before me? I don't know, is that weird? Is that a bad interpretation of this? But it does feel more abstract. It feels like I'm, I guess, in the middle of the night, and all these cups are just falling from the sky. I don't even know where they're coming from. Maybe that's a way to look at it, too. Like, you have all these opportunities, and they came out of nowhere, and they all came at once, and you're like, what do I do, what do I do? And you have to, like, think fast. So, I mean, okay, sure. Like, if you don't pick one, then somebody's gonna pick one for you, right? So I guess, I mean, I can derive a meaning from this, but again, it's kind of going back into that wands territory where I'm like, it's getting a little abstract and I feel pulled out of the world. Just slightly on this one. And now we're back to this Eight of Cups, which feels a lot like that Five with the line work. And again, I wish it was more of a scene and less of whatever this is. But I don't totally hate it because we still have the moon. It's very, you know, RWS feeling. And instead of having a person walking away, leaving these cups behind, you have the cups being a trail leading you onward. Maybe it feels almost ghostly to me when they're like this. So maybe it's like, you know that you need to go on this path that may not really be seen. You may not really know where this path goes, but you know you need to follow it. And I think that's fine. Like, you know, the Eight of Cups is about, like, trying to decide whether you follow those cups or not. Like, do you go that direction or not? You don't know what lies, you know, over the horizon. So I think it's fine. A little strange. I wish it was more scenic. But again, it's also depicted at night, so maybe this was the best way to do it artistically speaking. I don't know. But it's fine. It's RWS enough that I'm like, meh, okay. Now, the Nine of Cups, I love that that's a scene. I love that we have the dandelion representing, like, a wish. Because when we think of dandelions, we think of, like, blowing on them to release the seeds and we make a wish. And since this cup is since this card is all about, like, wish fulfillment and your desires are being met and things are coming to fruition that you have dreamed of, like, that's wonderful. And I love that all these cups kind of, like, align to point towards this one wish. And you could blow them out to sea. I'm fine with this. I love this, actually. I think I prefer this over this, because it took me forever to remember what the Nine of Cups meant, and I kept getting it confused with the Nine of Pentacles when I was first learning, because they're both about, like, you know, achieving something, reaching abundance of some sort, and it took me a while to really distinguish them, especially because I don't really get the sense of all his desires have been met, you know? Like, I don't really feel like he's gotten what he's dreamed of in this depiction. But I can see that in the wish on the Nine of Cups. Okay, well, alright. Okay, I like that the rainbow has been represented in this, so we're pulling that from the RWS. But, like that Nine of Wands, I'm not in the world anymore. I don't feel it. I don't feel the sense of, like, happy family, legacy, and I don't feel the sense of we've come together, we've achieved healthy emotional relationships. I don't feel that at all whatsoever. I feel pulled out of the world completely, in fact. It feels just separate from the whole deck. And maybe that's my main problem, is just I don't feel like I'm walking through nature anymore. I don't feel like I'm walking through the Spacious Tarot universe anymore. I don't know what happened. I don't know. I don't understand it. This would be fine in another deck, but I don't really like it in this deck. maybe I'm being too critical. I like the rainbow. I like that that was carried over in some way. I almost wish the cups would have all poured, like, okay, think you have, like, you find this little, like, pool of water, and there's all these, like, rocks around it, and all the cups are pouring, so they're, like, they're all sitting up around the edge. You have 5 on this side, 5 on this side, maybe, and they all pour water down into this, like, pool of water, and it starts to turn into a rainbow and eddies in the bottom and, like, swirls. I think that would be beautiful. Like, that, I would be like, okay, all these relationships have come together to create this beautiful rainbow, and it would have felt more scenic, especially if it was, like, this little pool of water with all these rocks in the sky above or something, some plant life. Like, you could make it look like this with, like, some scene, but instead put rocks around it. Or, you know what, it would be, like, a reference to that 3. So it would be a reference to this. Like, if you had something similar with the rocks around, but then you had, like, 10 cups and then, like, a pool of water where it all turned into a rainbow at the bottom, that would have been a wonderful way to depict the 10. And it would be a way to recall the 3, you know? Like, this community aspect that is involved in the 10, that's also, you know, involved in the 3. That would have been wonderful. This just pulls me out. And I wish that it would have been depicted differently. Just differently. Now, for the quartz, like I said before, you know, I don't have any issues with the quartz mostly. They're little scenes with little creatures. I love that this one's actually stuck in a bowl, because it's like you have to get out of the bowl to go explore the world. Like, you have to change your perspective. You are in a limited perspective. You have blinders on, you know, like, you're limiting your view, and you need to escape that. And I think that's a wonderful way to also reference the fish in the cup on the page of cups. I like this depiction a lot. This might be one of my favorite quartz that I've seen thus far. Now with the Explorer of Cups, the fish swimming down to find something, to discover something, to hear something new, to experience something new, where the Knight of Cups is usually depicted as, like, a messenger, like he's bringing something to you. Again, wonderful. It's a different way of looking at it, but I do genuinely love this depiction. These might be the best quartz, honestly. I don't know if I'm speaking too soon, but these might be the best quartz. The Guardian coming upon this, like, bowl of water with the lotus flower in it. I don't know what I gleaned from that yet. I think I would have to I'd have to spend some time and, like, just thinking about it. But I actually really like that for the Guardian, for the Queen of Cups. I don't know if I necessarily feel nurturing motherly vibes per se, but that's also not the sole focus of the Queen of Cups necessarily, so that would be an interesting card to reflect on. And then we have the Elder of Cups, and we have this cup, like, floating on the water that the fish is coming up to. Again, I think I need to spend time in these 2 cards to really, really understand them, but hey, it's a scene. That's all I'm asking for. Alright, so now I want to do something that I've been wanting to do since I saw the Spacious Tarot. So when I was trying to decide whether or not to get this deck, I wanted to separate out the cards that I thought were impactful versus the ones that are kind of meh versus the ones that just did not resonate with me at all. And the reason I wanted to do that was because, again, when I looked at this deck, the whole suit of wands was one that I just felt was lackluster. It felt like it was just like the author didn't really put as much effort into it as they did the other cards. And some of the pentacles felt that way too. And some of the majors. So because it didn't really fit in the world, in my opinion, that's what held me back. So I want to do this little exercise and just kind of separate them out. And then, yeah, like that's what I want to do. So I've already talked about all the cards, so at this point, I'm just going to kind of put them down. After thinking about this being water, I love that. Like, at first I didn't, and then I changed my mind. Again, that was in part 1, but I was like, oh, what if water pooled into the shell? And then you could see the reflection of the sky above. Love that. I have not checked the guidebook to see if that's what the depiction is. I don't want to check the guidebook because I have my new understanding of what I think that is, and so I'm keeping it the way it is. Or at least keeping my understanding. So I'm gonna put this in the, I'm just gonna make 2 piles, because I was gonna make a meh pile. I think I should just lean into my Scorpio sun and be all or nothing, okay? If you're I either love you or I don't. That's how this is going to go. I'm gonna actually put Justice here. I know in part 1 I wasn't sold on it, but I'm gonna put it there. This one does not feel like sacrifice to me. This could have been better. I don't know. Don't pull me out of the world. Stop doing that. I love that star. I'm actually going to put the moon here. I know that in part 1 I was like, it is what it is, but at least it's a scene. You guys are going to hear me say this a lot. Judgment is one I don't really know. I'm going to put it here because I lean towards liking it because of the doorway aspect, but it's kind of an for me. Putting the world over there, though. Seed is fine. Even though I don't understand what this is trying to achieve, that's fine. I'm putting it here. You guys are going to see some similarities in what I'm picking, I think. Don't know what this one's trying to achieve either, but I'll put it there. I wanted more from that card. I think the idea behind it would go here. I wish it was shown differently. Like, as in, I wish there was more of a honeycomb, like, beehive aspect to it. Like, look, you could have made even, like, a beehive that was separate, and, like, a little bee was, like, crawling on, like, some surface or tree that was, like, you know, in the foreground or something. But what is this? The concept, phenomenal. The concept, perfect. The execution, I don't know. So, I think all the courts are probably going to end up on this side, because even though I don't totally understand them, I think they serve their purpose. So, even these swords for the most part, even this one, I'm going to put here. I think the swords does what it needs to do, so it doesn't totally pull me out of the world. And here we go. Actually, I'm okay with this one. Not like totally, but I'm okay. I understand the vibes, so. I like that we looked up that, because I think that made a world of a difference for understanding it. That I'm putting over there because I just don't understand. I don't know. 8 of Cups would be probably a meh. I think the feeling's there, so I'll put it here. Wish that would have been different. Okay, so I think I liked more of the deck than I expected. To be honest, I'm glad I did this deep dive, because this would have been smaller. At least it was smaller in my head, because pretty much the entire suit of Pentacles and wands way back when, from my like what I recalled of the deck, and a lot of the majors, not a lot, but some of the majors ended up over here in my mind's eye back in the day. But now I can see that I actually like more of the deck than I thought, and it's only a handful of cards that I'm not keen on, which, just for reference, are the 10 of Cups, which I explained why and what I thought would have been better. The 7 of Cups, which, again, it's kind of a meh, because I think I'm starting to understand what the aim of it was, but I'm not entirely sold. A lot of these wands, they just don't feel like what the suit can really represent, and I don't feel like I'm in a scene. I think that's my issue. Even for these Pentacles, like, again, this one, the execution, but this one, I'm not really sure what the aim is. This one just feels, I don't know, poorly thought out in my opinion. Again, I don't feel like I'm in the world anymore. Same with this. You could have shown a fallen tree. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of fallen trees, so, and those were used to represent, like, the 10, what was it, the 10 of Swords and stuff, so that's fine. Yeah, I don't know, like, when I move that aside, I'm just gonna lay down some that I think really missed the mark for me. All these wands. Put that there, I guess. Like, they just, do you see the theme? Do you see the theme here? I'll move these off to the side because I don't want that to be there. But this is what I mean. It doesn't feel, they feel forgotten. Is that strange that they feel forgotten? And then, you know, we come back to some of the cards that I'm head over heels about. Sorry, I'm gonna, like, try to shuffle through them real quick. I didn't want to do all majors on this, but, like, there are some. These cards, to me, they just have a story. You know, I feel like I'm wandering around and I'm looking at the scenes. And even this one that's partially underground, I get the idea. And it's good enough. It feels like I'm trying to look at the roots, maybe. Maybe I figured out how to do that. Overall, like, so I feel like the scene is there. I feel like the meaning is there. And that's honestly fine by me. Alright, but that is my personal opinion on pretty much every card in the Spacious Tarot. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this deep dive. If you want to see more tarot deep dives, let me know. I think I'm going to do a couple more, but I don't really know which one I want to do next and when, because these are very long videos. And if you would prefer to see this all in one video instead of two, let me know. But yeah, otherwise, that's my opinion on the Spacious Tarot. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts, especially on the cards where maybe I wasn't really grasping the meaning like I should, and just kind of hear your ideas. Obviously, like I said a couple times, even though this deck didn't necessarily have like there were cards, right, that I did not enjoy, even though that's the case, I still love this deck. Like, I got this deck for a reason. I wanted this deck for a reason, even though I don't love everything about it. That's okay, because it is a gorgeous deck, and I do feel like I'm walking through the world most of the time, and I will use it. I think it'll be a wonderful deck for client readings. So obviously, I don't hate it. I don't want to criticize it too much. I definitely think you guys should get it if you can still. But it is wonderful, and a lot of people love this deck too. So even though I have some critical opinions of it, that does not change the fact that I absolutely adore this deck, and I'm so happy that I was able to, support the creator, because it is honestly a deck that transformed the way that I view tarot, and I think it will continue to do so. The more that I study and work with it, I think it's going to really revolutionize my readings. So anyway, thank you guys again so much for watching, and until next time, I will catch you later.